Hello, I'm Alfee Reft, and I'm one of the assistants for our USA Women's National Team. And I'm here to talk to you guys, or explore, I should say, some serving and the concepts behind some jump float, and how we like to look at jump float in our national team gym, and most importantly, how we apply pressure and build that concept of applying pressure against our opponents. We're going to start with some principles, and one of the main objectives that we have in serving for our team is to get teams out of system. So when we talk about getting teams out of system, we all know it's about pushing the setter somewhere behind the 10-foot line where the middle attacker is taken out of the equation. And that really heightens our ability and raises the percentages for our block and defense to not only dig, but to transition and score the point. So instead of serving aces, it's get teams out of system. That's a really big key for us. And we do that by emphasizing to hit serves in the court, hit good assertive serves, I should say, and hit them in the court a lot. So in our gym, we like to tell our athletes 9 out of 10 is a standard. That's a goal that athletes can attain quite a bit without feeling like they have to hit the greatest serve in the world. We just need them to be good for long periods of time there. Some of the traits of our serving and our servers in our gym are we want them to be relentless. So we want them to hit their serves, and we call that term flean, and that stands for hitting a flat and a clean serve. And so when we say relentless, it's not just putting it in the court, it's going after the actual target that they're hitting. With that said, we also like them to be accurate. So some of the best passers in the world, if we can hit them maybe on the right side of their body because they struggle there, then that's really important. That gives us the advantage of obtaining or getting or accomplishing that objective of getting them out of system. So it's really important that we're not just hitting general zones, but that we can hit small parts of the court and make small misses for what we're trying to accomplish. With accuracy is not just direction left to right, but we also really emphasize the ability to hit different lengths and spots of the court in terms of depths. So can we hit the last 10 feet of the court? Can we also make a serve that drops right in front of the passer? So we're playing with all directions and making sure that our servers have a mastery of the ability to move the ball in lots of trajectories and lots of spaces on the court on command. And then the last thing is that we can do this over and over. We talked about 9 out of 10. It makes it really easy for teams to score on it. Or it makes it really easy if teams know that every third serve we're going to miss because we're going for it. Can we keep a consistent and a constant pressure on the passing team by just being good for long periods of time from the end line? Okay, we're going to take a look at seams and how we distinguish that in our gym. So we use 4 seams in our gym that run from the end line all the way to the net. And it's really important that the seams that we communicate with our players are in between passers, not at them. It really divides the court into 4 sections so that what we're trying to create is passers moving a couple steps right, a couple steps deep, a couple steps forward. I would say at any level, whether it's the international level in the Olympics, collegiate, club, most passers, when they're receiving balls that are served at them, are pretty good. So we probably want to be moving them a little bit left or right, deep or short. And so you can see in our picture here, we divide the court into 4 seams. Seam 1 is from the sideline to the zone 1 passer. Seam 2 would be in between zone 1 passer and zone 6 passer. Seam 3 would be in between zone 6 and zone 5, and then seam 4 would be between sideline and zone 5 passer. So again, moving them side to side, super important, something we like to do in our gym. Now those seams don't just end there. As we talked about earlier, we want to make sure that we're not just moving them left to right, but we can also toy with a passer deep to short. So you can see the highlighted numbers in this picture indicate the deeper seams that we're asking servers to hit. So for example, if we're saying hit a deep zone 1, that would be to zone 1 passers right, and trying to push her on her heels, really trying to get that passer to move backwards, maybe out of her approach pattern, or just blow her up and get her out of system. And then on the other side of those deep seams would be our short seams. So we have the same lanes, 1 through 4, but now that short seam is really dependent on where the passers line up, but we're trying to hit somewhere between the 10-foot line and the 12-foot line. And I think specifically for short seams, what's really important is knowing that we're not asking our servers to change the shape of their serve. We're asking the serve to actually move at the same trajectory of the deep serve, but to drop off in front of that passer. So you can imagine for a passer, it becomes really hard when you're seeing pace deep and then a ball that looks the same and just falls off. And that's ultimately the goal between these two, distinguishing between the two serves, deep and short, in those seams. All right, let's get into some key considerations. Some of you coaches might look at these as cues. We like to call them considerations. There's a lot of ways to serve a ball, but some of the things we like to focus on and explore with our athletes when we're talking about deep seams. One of the things is that we want our servers' elbows to be in a position where it's back and loaded. I'm sure a lot of coaches use the term loaded. We like to give a little more visual and talk about breaking through the glass with that elbow. So we tell our servers, hey, make sure before you serve, break through that glass, get that elbow back and ready to hit the ball with some pace. The next thing we really like to emphasize is the lift. So when we're serving deep seam serves, whatever seam or part of the court you're on, we want to make sure that lift is leading in front of the right and attacking arm. And I say in front because we want to think at the end of that serve, we want to be transferring all that momentum into the ball. And if that lift isn't put well enough of the attacking arm, then a lot of times that pace is lost off the serve, or the serve starts to deviate with contact in different directions. It's no good. So again, elbow breaking through the glass, toss out in front of the shoulder. And then lastly, we want to make sure that they're getting through the ball and staying long with that swing into the direction of target. Okay, so a good way to summarize that is we want our servers, when they're hitting their serves deep, to get fast, to get big, and to drive it. All right, so with those three cues or key considerations in mind, we'll take a look at three servers here. And when you're taking a look at them, you can see the toss out in front of the shoulder. You can see the server. Oh, let me see what's going on here. One sec. All right, there we are. You can see that toss out in front of her shoulder. I paused it on her lift. This is Jordan Poulter serving. And then you can see her contact coming well through the ball. I'm going to see if I can rewind that one more time, find that just so we can slow that down on her. So again, in front of the shoulder, really nice extension through, and she's really big, she's really fast, and she's driving that ball well. We see Kim Hill here with a two-hand toss, and you can see her lifting. Oh, we're a little paused. 1 second. Lifting that ball in front of the shoulder. And again, a really long and dynamic move through the serve to hit and push that server a little bit, or I should say that passer, back on her heels. All right, so we had the deep seams. It's really important, I think, when we're coaching our athletes that they can identify what it feels like to be big and fast off of the deep serve before we get to the short serve, because we want it to look the same. So if they don't know what it feels like to work on the deep stuff, then it gets hard to make it, to just look the same, to be honest. So before getting into short serves, I would say make sure that they understand how to move their bodies, how to jump, how to be dynamic, and then you can work into some short seams. And so some of our key considerations are very similar. We want the loaded position and starting position to look the same. Okay, I would say one of the big cues for this as a coach is to teach how to toss the ball a little closer to their body. A lot of young servers, when they're hitting short serves, will toss the ball way behind them or too in front, and then that results in them not being able to make the contact that they want. So the lift is key. After they get the lift down, then you can really start talking about how to be deceptive with the hand manipulation and how they contact that ball. And so we want them to still stay fast. We don't want the approach to change. We want them to be big just like they're hitting their deep serve, but then we want them to make minor adjustments at the end and learn how to command their hand to drop that ball in the court. And so we'll take a look at some of these short serves, and notable is the toss location on these serves. I'm going to see if I can slow this down. 1 second here. Okay, and so we'll take a look at Annie Drews here. I want to really emphasize where she's lifting this ball, and it's really hard to tell, but she lifts that ball just on top of her head, and then there's the arm is manipulated. It's a little shorter arm than the drive arm because they're taking some off. We like to say, like, dial off your serve a little bit. Take some speed off, which results in a different type of arm swing. Okay. Shorter arm swing, I should say. And Feluca does the same thing there. And you can see what's really nice with that serve by Feluca, as we talked about, is that the trajectory of the serve doesn't change. The trajectory of the serve looks the same as a deep serve. It just falls off the table at the end, and that makes it really, really difficult for passers to recognize what's happening, whether it's deep or short. So as coaches, when we're developing these skills and we're teaching servers how to hit deep and then drop short, I think the next stage for that is, after they have a good feel for what that is, giving them the freedom to really explore strategy. I know as coaches a lot, we want to tell them where to serve, but where serving gets really good, I think, is where they take ownership for what they're doing. And can they start thinking the game? I've worked this passer deep, can I hit her short? Or I've worked her a little left, let me work her a little right short. And as coaches, that's something I think we can really invest in and train in with our players. So spending time in the gym to give players a chance to serve in strings. Give them 3 serves in a row. Let them practice how they're moving things around, as opposed to just getting back there and hitting serves over and over without a whole lot of purpose. So we'll take a look. For us, some of our key considerations in strategy is, again, to stay relentless on the target. We want to hit different sides of their bodies, so we want to hit sometimes their left shoulder or their right shoe. We like to really aim small so that we miss small. If we aim large, then we miss large, and that becomes a little easier for the passers to handle. So I think that's a really key concept for young athletes to understand, and something we can coach up a lot into them. And then lastly is, as we've talked about a lot, the depth. So can you teach athletes to hit some deep, hit some short? We'll take a look at a string here of serves from Michelle Barch-Hackley in the Tokyo Olympics. This is a consecutive strings of serves in the second set of the gold medal match. And it's really neat to see her hit. The first serve, we'll see her hit her chest high. Then we'll actually see her move into a different part of the court. I think it's moving already here. She moves into a different part of the court and hits her right shoulder. And then the last serve, she actually hits that drop serve, which scores for the ace. So there we see her hitting a little bit to her right and flat. And then this is my favorite. She actually takes an approach just a little off, dials that arm back, drops it in front for the ace. Really awesome. All right, so in summary for coaches, serving can be a really challenging thing for our young athletes depending on the level they're at. Learning how to scale it back for them so that they can find success with especially hand manipulation. We talked about really being able to command the ball. For some young servers, maybe they're not ready to jump yet, and maybe we're just teaching them how to be dynamic on the ground and hit that ball flat and deep, or maybe even serve under the net, just giving them a variability of different spots to hit so they can find success with that, and then maybe progressing them into some jump serving. But one thing that they can all do is be really intentional with their lift, and we can teach them the difference between how to lift slightly in front for a deep serve and how to lift more on top of them to hit that drop or short serve that we're talking about. Okay, again, train to be dynamic, so whether that's dynamic on the ground or in the air, that's a big thing. Can they identify what it feels like to hit a serve fast and then work back from there? We've already talked about the command of contact. And then lastly, after they've put all those things together, can they strategize? Can they think about serving? Can they look at a passer and pick them apart and then trust that they can hit different parts of the court?